everyone, I am Grandmaster Damian Lemos here for iChess.net. We are from Sagrada Familia in Barcelona, Spain, and I'm here to introduce my new Master Method course, which is almost 15 hours of chess analysis. And for those who don't know me yet, I'm a Grandmaster. I started playing chess when I was 10. I got my Grandmaster title when I was 18. And since then, apart from playing tournaments, I did a lot of coaching as well. So now I'm 27, I have 9 years of coaching experience. So I did this work based on my experience as a player and as a coach because I know the pain points of you, club players, and I know it's tough to know how to study. There's a lot of information out there. It's tough to know what's good, what's not so good. And I can tell that because I had no coaches. I had to study all by myself. In fact, I think I know the road from being a beginner up to the Grandmaster level. So in this Master Method, apart from studying openings, middle games, end games, which are very important, we'll talk about other aspects of the game, like decision making, time management, and how to assess a position. You'll learn the skill to look at a position and know how to play. So hopefully you'll benefit from my course, and we'll talk about the chapters later on. I'm Grandmaster Damian Lemos here for iChess.net from Barcelona. I'll see you guys in my videos. Okay, hello everyone, iChess friends. In this chapter 1, we are going to talk about opening preparation. I would call this chapter Ideas Behind Openings or Opening Surprises. And we are not going to learn a specific opening, but we are going to learn how to choose the openings according to our style or even according to our opponent's styles. I think it's great to understand what we are doing instead of memorizing, because memorizing doesn't make any sense. In fact, you can pick openings, and if you know what you're doing, you'll probably get a good middle game, or who knows, maybe a better end game already. So that's what we are going to study in this chapter. You'll find a lot of games, and hopefully you like it.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Master Method, and now we'll analyze a game which I titled Knowing the Plans Behind the Openings You Play. And playing and studying an opening is not an easy task. In fact, I see a lot of players trying to memorize moves, and that might work if you're playing a sharp variation where you have to know every single move. But most of the openings we play, we have strategy behind it, we have plans, ideas, and knowing move by move might work, but I believe memorizing is one thing and understanding and feeling that position is different, and we have to look forward to the second. I think understanding is what really matters, and once you understand that position, then you can try memorizing, but you have to know what you're doing. So we'll see a French defense, which I played the French for a long time. You can find a lot of videos on the iChess channel. After d4, d5, and as I was saying, the French compared to the Sicilian or other defenses black can play, the French has a positional approach. So d5, here white plays e5, which is the advanced variation. Just a quick introduction for those who want to play the French. Knight c3 is the main line, knight d2 is the Tarrasch variation, is also playable. White can also play e takes d5, but this helps us to equalize because he's not fighting for the center anymore, and we can trade a lot of pieces on the e-file. And e5, the advanced variation, makes a lot of sense as well, because white already has more space. For instance, we cannot place a knight on f6, which is a kingside defender, and most important, a key piece for our castle. Once we castle, we know knight f6 happens to be the best defender. So white has already more space, and what we have to do as black is attack this pawn chain. On the other hand, white will set up his pawn chain, and as long as he keeps a pawn on e5, he'll have more freedom for his pieces. So we play knight c6. Little by little, we'll try attacking these two pawns. We realize that if d4 pawn is gone, that means e5 pawn is also weak. So white plays knight to f3. White develops a piece. We have to know what happens if he plays something like f4. I mean, this makes sense because he plays this move before playing knight f3. If he manages to play these two moves at once, then e5 is super protected. But here we can try playing a move like queen b6, attacking on d4. If he takes, well, he has some development issues, and not to mention this diagonal. And if knight f3, we can take. He'll probably take with a pawn, just to make sure he's got a good center. And because white is lacking development, it's not easy for him to protect the d4 pawn. Something that happens a lot in this line is that bishop e3 is not possible because the b2 pawn is hanging. So this is what I mean when I say understanding the plans behind the opening. There's no point in memorizing this variation. As long as we know queen b6 is there and we are targeting these two pawns, and we have maneuvers like knight h6, knight f5, or knight e7, knight f5. As long as we understand the plan, which is attacking white's center, white's pawn chain, then we have a better understanding of that position, and it's easier for us to remember the moves. So knight f3. As black, we play queen b6. Once more, if white takes on c5, first, this is helping us because e5 is weaker, and second, white will have to waste a tempi playing queen e2 or queen c2. Both moves are ugly from the positional point of view. But he has to do something about the f2 pawn, so he won't take on c5. White has a couple of moves here. a3 happens to be the main theoretical line, trying to play b4 and win some space on the queen side. If you want to know more about this variation, as I said, you have a lot of videos. I did them myself regarding these lines. But white can also play bishop e2, trying to castle and finish his development as soon as possible. And if we talk from a theory point of view, the best move for black here is taking on d4, followed by knight e7, trying to attack on d4. In fact, if he castles here, we play knight f5, and white simply loses the d4 pawn. There's no way he can save his material. If bishop e3, b2 is hanging. So after c takes d4, c takes knight e7, white before castling, he has to consider other moves, maybe b3 and bishop b2, maybe knight a3 followed by knight c2, or even knight c3, and against this move, knight a4, deviating our queen from attacking the d4 pawn. White has some ideas, but let's see what black played. And there's one more thing we have to know about this game. White player was 22 and 6500, and black player was at 2600. We know White's player is a decent player. He understands what he's doing, but black has to play for a win. So he played knight h6, which is similar to the previous variation we just saw, but we are delaying this move. For instance, we are not taking on d4. And this is like a trap, because after knight h6, this move is too tempting for white. I mean, I bet a lot of players against knight h6, they take on the spot without thinking, because, okay, we have to retake, and the resulting pawn structure doesn't look promising for black at all. But if we know the plans, we realize that even after having this weak pawn structure, the fact that we have the bishop pair and attacking chances on the queen side, I mean, even after having this weak pawn structure, we have good chances. And we get this assessment after knowing that position. And that's why I feel knight h6 here deserves an exclamation mark, because we offer our opponent the chance of making a mistake. Of course, taking on d4, as I was saying, is probably the best try, but here, unless white doesn't know anything about that position, I mean, he can castle and then he makes a mistake, but here, if he knows something, he'll play b3 or any other move to guard d4. So knight h6, I think it works as a good trap, and of course we can transpose, I mean, to a main line. Let's say he plays knight a3, I can play this, or let's say I take, knight f5, knight c2. We might transpose into a main line, but we offer him the chance of taking on h6. We take back, and this is not the only move. I think we can also take here, although this is a bit risky. I mean, he can try in some variations going back to c1, and even if we take on a1, our queen is kind of trapped there. We don't have a good development, we have the king in the center, so in the opening we don't go after material, we go after having a good development, and once our king is safe and all our pieces are out, then we try getting some material advantage. So we make an easy decision here, we take that bishop, and we have the bishop pair already. Despite having a closed position, we know the bishop pair potential, we always talk about that, and that position might be open anytime soon. So white plays queen d2. He has to do something about the b2 pawn. We know queen c1, we can probably consider grabbing the d4 pawn already. And not only d4, as we said before, once d4 is gone, so is the e5 pawn. And, well, maybe he can try b3. But since bishop c1 is gone, he has to be extremely careful with a move like b3, because dark squares wise, white is too weak already. So here, for instance, after a move like bishop b4 check, he loses the right to castle. Of course, he cannot castle now. King f1 is probably the move, but if he covers on d2, then we just take the d4 pawn. This is another move that this is another pattern of that position. We know bishop b4 check usually avoids white from castling, and those things are the things we have to memorize when we play. I'll show you another variation. Let's say we play this, knight to e7. Let us say he plays b3, knight f5, bishop here. Before white castles, we have this move that is a move that usually happens in this line, bishop b4 check, and if he covers the check with knight c3 or knight d2, then d4 pawn is hanging. The same happens after bishop c3, we take, and then d4 is hanging. That means that after bishop b4 check, he has to play king f1, which is okay for white. He'll have to castle by hand probably, but he's wasting a couple of tempis, and we want something. I mean, once we stop him from castling. So bishop e2, knight h6, bishop takes, pawn takes, he plays queen d2. And okay, we continue our development. It's worth considering taking on d4, but now bishop b4 is not as powerful because he still has the pawn on b2. He can just play knight c3 and push our bishop back later. So I'm sorry, I think it's pretty cold here in Canary Island. So yeah, I think my voice is back already. Sorry about that. Queen d2. Okay, we continue our development. He castles, we castle, and he plays knight a3. I have to mention, this is something some players are afraid of doing. I mean, I imagine how some players think here. They think, if I castle here, this is too weak, and I'm afraid, therefore I'll play with the king here. That's not the way to go, because I think it's even worse for us if we stay with the king on e8. If we want to do something different, then we can try bishop d7 and castle queenside, but remember this for your games in general. Castle somewhere. Unless you're playing a super close position, playing with the king in the center is not recommended at all. And here we can castle short. He doesn't have the bishop pair, and we know our king side is a bit weak, but it's better to have the king on h8 than e8. And it's also a matter of development. I also think that if we castle queenside, let's say we play something like this, at some point he can fire a pawn storm there, and it's risky for us because we have the king there. So if we castle on the same side, I mean, the kings are on the same side of the board, I don't imagine white firing here, because it's also risky for him. So, okay, let's see again what happened. Bishop takes, pawn takes, queen d2. Here we continue our development, and we also offer him the chance of taking on c5, which clearly favors us because e5 is now another target. So bishop here, he castles, we castle, and he plays knight a3. Bishop d7. As I said before, we'll decide when to take on d4. We are not worried about a move like this yet because e5 is too weak. So bishop d7. As you can see, and this happens a lot in the French, our play is on the queen side. Here we are trying to play on the c file, and kingside wise we realize we don't have many chances. I mean, we are too weak. Maybe in an endgame we have some chances, but here we have to focus on the queen side. So knight c2, and here a very good move by black, rook ac8. Of course, we have to focus on tactics as well, and we have to consider stuff like this. Unfortunately for us, this is not even possible. Our queen is trapped. But let's suppose queen takes b2 is a possibility. It is risky to allow a move like this, and maybe we have to waste like 3 or 4 tempi to bring our queen back home. I usually try playing good positional moves, and once I have all my pieces in the correct squares, then tactics, they appear. I mean, tactics are we have tactics all the time, but just to give a better example of my words, let's say I have rook c7, rook f, c8, somehow my bishop comes to f8, then I would consider something like queen takes b2 or some sacrifice. But first I make sure my pieces are doing something. And here white plays b4. I believe this is a mistake. It makes some sense to advance on the queen side, but black has the advantage there. Or at least we have the initiative on this side. So maybe as white I would consider taking on c5. I know I said this pawn is weak, but now my knight on a3, which was not doing much, has a good square on d4. And somehow, by taking on c5, white also closes the c file, which is our biggest victory as black at the moment. Of course, we can still try playing active on the queen side, but okay. At the moment, white doesn't have many threats to face. So d takes c5, I think it was a simple decision, an easy to play decision. And b4 is, I think, is too ambitious. Let's remember that white doesn't have the bishop paired, and if he opens that position too much, that can only help black. In fact, black takes on b4, white has to take with the c-pawn. If he takes with the knight, from that positional point of view, this is a disaster because the c3 pawn is still there. We don't even have to take, we can play knight a5, having a wonderful square for our knight on c4, not to mention the c3 pawn is weak for the rest of the game, placed on an open file. So c takes b4, and here comes another great positional maneuver that happens a lot in the French. And I mean, I feel that, of course, black player was a good grandmaster, and he probably found the move because he's a strong player, but I have the feeling that me, for instance, since I know the plan in the French, even if I'm not such a good player, I would find this move. I mean, knight e7, I'm finding better squares for my knight. Maybe I attack on d4, maybe my knight helps on kingside defense. But the purpose of this move is to trade black's worst bishop in the French. We know bishop d7 sometimes is a bad bishop, and this trade happens a lot in the French. Here we would love to play bishop b5 and get rid of our bad bishop. And why not, we also get rid of white's only bishop. So white plays a4, stopping this trade. And here another great positional maneuver. Before seeing what black played, let's try understanding that position, and why not, let's try to find the moves ourselves. The first move we look at is rook c7. I mean, this is the obvious plan, rook c7, rook a c8. Now the c file is open, so we have to go for it. But the main drawback is too visible. I mean, it's easy to see. Our queen on b6 is kind of trapped. And we have to be extremely careful with those pawns. Even if the queen is not trapped, it's risky. We realize it's too risky, so maybe it's too soon to play rook c7. There is one more thing. We clearly have the initiative on the c file, we have the bishop pair, and white, despite being active on the queen side, I feel those pawns b4 and a4 are likely to be weaknesses. But usually weaknesses, they appear on an endgame. What I'm trying to say is, bishop pair and weaknesses, they are easy to exploit when we play endgames. So, what if we try trading queens off? If we trade queens off, then white will never have the chance of attacking on the king side. Without queens, I feel that's almost impossible. So that would be great for us because our king side is not ideal. If we trade queens off, it's easier to attack on the queen side because that knight on c2 is not doing great. We can double up maybe on the c file. So black found this great move, and after analyzing it feels like queen c7 is an easy move, but trust me, when you play a game, these maneuvers are not easy to find. So queen c7, if he plays knight e3 or knight somewhere else, then we get what we wanted, and we are still dominating on the c file. White plays rook fc1 and queen c3. Here white, despite being a sad decision, he had to take on c3 and allow this move. I think white was afraid of this. Here, of course, if he doesn't react soon, he'll lose material, but maybe a move like this. If rook takes, that's the problem, a4 is hanging. But maybe he has some counterplay. I can also play rook c8. I feel these endgames, they look drawish, but we still have a lot of potential because we have those bishops and these two guys are advanced. I feel they are weak. It would be different if they were on b2 and a2. And of course, instead of taking on c1, we can also consider this, and we are still dominating on the c file. This was white's better try, but he played queen d1. Maybe this move is a mistake. Well, in fact, it is a mistake, but let's see it from white's point of view. As white, you have this position, and it's a bit sad to play queen takes c3. Especially when you're playing white. It's like you have the must. It's like you're trying to play for a win, for the advantage, and once you see this position, you see white, you see black is he's trading queens off, he's got the initiative. It's tough to play a position where you don't have the initiative and you have to defend a lot. So, despite being a bad move, I understand why white played queen d1. So, okay, let's flip again. We are playing black. Knight here, we have a threat. And rook a3. I don't like how white pieces are being placed here because they are not coordinated at all. Maybe the best move was playing this, which is weakening the king side a bit, and suddenly we have another move that happens a lot in the French, f6, activating not only this guy on the fianchetto but also the rook on f8. Here, since white is too passive and the queen on d1 is not helping much, the queen is not on d3 or h5, here we can afford playing f6 and opening lines against his king. And suddenly we are dominating on both sides of the board. That's what really matters, to play an equal position, but having the initiative. You are the one making threats and your opponent is the one defending all the time. So white again doesn't want to play a passive move and he prefers attacking something, but here we simply go back to c7 and this pin is too painful for white. It's like he cannot get rid of it. He plays knight f e1, overprotecting the knight on c2, but rook c1 is still unprotected. And now, where white is a bit, or let's say not coordinated at all, we advance with another French move, f6. We make sure that position is open, therefore our bishops can act. Rook takes f6. Well, bishop takes f6 was also worth considering, but I feel this is better because apart from this file, which is already under control, maybe rook f8 comes in, maybe queen f4, or why not, maybe bishop f8. Bishop f8 is a positional move that it's easy to miss, and it's quite powerful because if we place the bishop on f8, let me see, we can try playing a5 and suddenly everything is under pin. Also, rook a3 has to stay there because a4 is also hanging. So here we see the value of our bishops. Once that position is open, white plays knight d3. Here we probably have more than a single move. We know this knight d3 has some merit. And black decides to get rid of white's most active piece. I really like this approach. Maybe we can play rook here as well. And in a flash, white makes a huge mistake here, which can sometimes happen. He plays knight to e3. I believe he had to play something else, maybe knight takes f4 or another move. He still has to defend and black has the initiative, but this knight e3, well, it has an idea, of course. He wants to trade pieces off, and that's something you have to remember. When you're under pressure, trading pieces off is a good strategy. On the other hand, if you're attacking, you don't want to trade much. But the problem here is that after knight e3, we have a tactic, and it doesn't come by magic. I feel our pieces are much better placed. We have a better development as well, so we should have something. After knight e3, queen takes c1, it's just winning. If queen takes, well, the queen was overloaded, by the way. Here knight takes e2 check, and then we take on c1. White can resign here already. We have an entire extra rook. So after queen takes c1, the only move is knight takes c1, but okay, the follow-up is quite easy. We play rook takes c1, he has to take, and then we grab the bishop, double check, and here we also have enough material, enough extra material to win. So, well, maybe the game could have more moves from this position. I don't think white is lost yet, but I really understand what happened, and being after, white facing a lot of pressure, sometimes mistakes like this can happen. And that's what chess is all about. I try playing solid positions, but putting pressure to my opponents, therefore they are likely to make mistakes. So that is what happened here. And I feel black in this game put in practice a lot of French ideas. So that's what I try to do when I study an opening, analyzing games played by grandmasters, or sometimes, let's say, strong players. Doesn't have to be a grandmaster, but I try to focus on the plans, on the most common plans I see in those games. So I hope you enjoyed this video. We'll talk about ideas like this in other videos in this master method, and well, I'll see you guys during my next videos. Thank you.